Hello, hello, everyone. I'm with you in my tiny house in North Carolina, here on retreat with my teachers, Russell and Linda Delman, in the of the Embodied Life School. I studied with them in California since 2017, and things have shifted around. They're not teaching out there as much, and also it's easier, closer for me to come see them here in North Carolina, not far from my house. So I'm streaming a little earlier. We're here on Sun and Moon Yoga Studios YouTube channel, as usual. And thank you. Thank you for joining me, for being here whenever you join in. The community aspect of this practice that many of us do it creates a rippling out effect that benefits us all. Let's arrive. I titled this A Simple Choice. Sometimes I change the title later because I can do that. A simple choice. I'm thinking today between peace, love, and fear. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's arrive. I'm thinking of my colleague and dear friend Christine's method of feet, feet, hands. When you bring your attention as you're arriving, as you're intending to arrive, to feet, to seat, these parts of us, to hands. As my teacher Russell was saying yesterday, the the power to move our attention is one of our biggest uh, superpowers, gifts. So how notice for yourself if how easy it is just to come to feeling your hands. And perhaps it's easier because I'm here, we're here together, and I'm guiding you through that. Hi, Steve. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for shifting times. So, how easy it is to just bring your attention to your hands. I happen to grab my mug of tea. I also have to just show you. So, there's lots of such cute things in this tiny house. One of them is this little unicorn. It's from a coffee shop. What are your hands holding, touching, or rest? Where are they resting? How they feel? And just notice how your attention can just saturate that part of you and be there, rest there. And then be given information back about the warmth or coolness. I would have, of some reason, I would have guessed my hands are warm, but actually they're a little bit cool. The fingertips are cool, which is an example of how when we're living in the past or if we're not really freshly checking in, we bring assumptions, past experience into the present, which is actually not what we thought or imposed through our thinking and memory is actually not true. Seat. I'm sitting on a very comfortable counter height bar stool, padded bar stool. And you sense for yourself, where is your seat? If you're laying down, if you're standing, I always offer just what options your positioning is your choice. I just share my experience to point you to finding your own. Maybe yours is similar to mine. Maybe we explore the same region, the same topic, but likely yours, of course, only each of us can have our own experience. We can share it in words, in yeah, in words and descriptions, but really, my teacher, Adyashanti, meditation teacher, said this in one of his talks. He mentioned that we can never know another person fully, something like that. Maybe it was we can't know what they're experiencing. We can empathize. We can sympathize, empathize that we have something very similar, and on the energetic level, I think we can know it like we know grief and we know what that feels like, and that's shared in that everyone it's common to us all. Bring the heat way down, but it's still kicking in. It's about 40 degrees outside. Tiny house needs to get reheated. So, seat 8. And let's bring in breath as I usually do, and just a feel for me touching into gravity. I went over breath very fast. I'll come back to breath, but let's stay with breath. Stay with it. Hello, hello, breath. You might even put your hand on some part of your body that's moved by the breath, perhaps the throat, especially if over the night you might be someone who clenches the jaw. Excuse me, throat and jaw might be a good place to land your instruments of a high touch, your heart or your belly. Just checking in. Another hot off the press uh, phrase from Linda yesterday was she's had some health issues. She was recalling that when she was laid up in bed for a while, she came to love her breath. That thought struck me quite a bit. So when someone shares something like that, like a teacher sharing that thought, it felt to me what we get is we get to compare and contrast, which is our mind's natural uh, capability, happens without any effort and goes on steroids often. So we kind of need to pause that sometimes and come back to the bigger picture from out of categorizing, comparing. So for me, when she said that, I thought, huh, I feel like the breath is a friend I sort of keep at an arm's length. Now that seems like a strange thing to say or to feel, but it's my experience. I'm allowed to have it. I'm the only one who can have it. Keeping the breath. So that's what my sense was, huh? And I do that. I recognize I do that with some in some aspects of relationship. I keep a certain distance. And it's not a judgment here. It's a observation. What could I learn from this? And certainly boundaries is a important thing, but there was something where I was just in our breath, for me, my breath, what a this might be the most safe other being in air quotes to have intimacy with. It is you can't not. I don't know if that's making any sense. It feels a little surrealish, but I think it might convey the idea. And Gravity. So let's play with gravity by doing something. Again, Linda did this with us yesterday where we bring our hands. I'm at a strange angle. Your hands might be, you might even start up high over your head, or you can start at eye level. And you can imagine that you're uh, submersed in a pool of water, and by some miracle, you can breathe even if you're underwater. And we're going to let this water drain slowly, and our hands are resting on the surface. And this movement of these instruments of high sensitivity touch our hands, but also our whole body is shifting as we move our hands, as it comes down, as we breathe. And this motion, this gesture, has the feel of bringing things calmer, more peaceful, more quiet for me, and I think for others. And your hands reach your lap or down beside you. Just let them rest. Just follow the water draining out below your knees, ankles, feet, and just see for yourself. I mentioned some terms of the qualities that happen with this gesture, with this movement, but you check for yourself. Check for yourself. Ooh, the sun is coming in at an angle of the window. Check for yourself that what's your experience now, just after that 30-second, 45-second movement. So that is something you can do at any point. You could even do it in your mind's eye if you're in a somewhere where there are other people around and you might not want to be putting your arms up in this strange way. Or as when I haven't been to the beach in a little while. In a little while. Anyway, sometimes I do yoga on the beach, and it used to be a really strange thing 20 years ago. People would sometimes I'd be meditating on the beach and I'd have my eyes like a little open and I'd see people walk by kind of staring at me. We can set trends. What is that now? Being an influencer. Yeah. Um, so you could do this anywhere. Sometimes I do yoga stretches in the mall or I don't go to malls that often anymore, but somewhere where my back is, call it museum walking, where my back gets stiff from slow walking. And I'll just grab a counter or rail or edge somewhere and do a half dog to the wall. So wherever you find yourself, you could take the draining the hot tub, draining the tub gesture. So I invite you now, we're partway into our practice together today. I invite you to, I'd forgotten this phrase and was reminded in a different way. Another teacher, and at the beginning of retreat, she would say, "What brought you here?" And most of us had come from some distance, even if just a nearby town, but maybe some of us some states away from this retreat with Sharon Landreth. And I thought that was such an interesting question to ask ourselves because it can be answered. It's very open, like a koan. It can be answered at many levels, like, oh, my car brought me here, the train. My desire brought me here. All the things, all the people who support the household chores and the tasks at work that while you're gone, that allowed us to be here. And what maybe even deeper than desire, what impulse brings you to this practice? And then hopping back to the more Maybe it would seem prosaic, but maybe it's turbulence in your life. And at the time I'm recording this, there's a particular thing that affects many of us. But it can be emotional, family things, relationship things, work things, social, political, health. So it can be a very specific psychosocial, emotional, energetic thing that brought you here today. And in corollary to that, something I don't do enough for myself, I'm of course always reminded of it when I'm with other teachers, is I don't know, I'll investigate what resistance I might have to this. That what would I like to see from this situation, from this practice today? What is my hope? What's your intent, intention, goal, prayer? Could have slightly different meanings, but maybe one of those words works better for you than another. And I'll share with you based on the topic that what I called this, a simple choice. I thought of this as, for me, as my psyche, my energy is being pulled in a kind of despairing direction lately, and fearful. I studied the Course in Miracles for some time years ago, and I loved that it presented some simple. This is really kind of getting my eyes back. Some simple dichotomies. One of them was, choices, yeah, and a very simple one is: do you want in this moment to choose love or to choose fear? And in some ways, I think this might sound like overly simplistic, but I think just because of that simplicity, it's something to easily pull in when I do feel myself overly falling into a pit of fear or despair, or um, a state that has merit. Of course, it's my response, and I honor that response. But it's almost like it self-perpetuates, it becomes a cyclone, pulls me in, which actually takes me out of the reality that is. Perhaps a question, maybe even a more fundamental question, and I think possibly why I've resisted this intention setting is, I think at the base of things, my intent is simply to be present. But maybe that one is just too ephemeral, in a sense, to remember to come back to. Anyhow, I'm elaborating on my process of what my intent is, and perhaps yours will be a similar one, but just check for yourself. And again, it can be something much more tangible, prosaic. I say prosaic, but I mean just maybe it's just to get a certain job done, a certain task accomplished today. Maybe that's what will be your intent. Card written to somebody, some seeds planted, and just sit with that for a moment. Let that soak into your skin, your being. And let's segue right into our meditation. Got, the sun way on my face, but I'm just going to let it be. And let's bow together to signal the beginning of this practice, which will be about 8 minutes long. Find again round sound breath, hands, feet, seat, whatever helps you to come to this presence. Enjoy your journey. I'll throw in little reminders to bring us back along the way, back from the mind pulling us to the past to the future. So a theme this weekend laid out by Russell is that embodiment is a doorway, presence. Presence is a doorway to awareness, and awareness is the doorway to freedom of choice, freedom and choice. Another a mini practice you can do within this meditation practice when you find yourself drawn to some mind storm somewhere else besides just sitting, just breathing, that you can take 3 conscious breaths. In other words, just follow with your attention, like we brought attention to our body earlier, bring attention to the breath. This doorway and embodiment, breath and body and breath are part of that doorway embodiment over and over. And there is no problem, no judgment, no punishment needed to be meted out. In fact, when our mind is thinking, we can more and more feel that we are both thinking and that presence awareness, those two that I separated, but I usually make them the same. That presence and awareness that is always here is right there, just allowing, allowing the thoughts. Now and then relax a little bit more and feel for the qualities that are present here with us, the way you experience simply being. You might find from time to time there's a feel of calm, or maybe a sustained feel of calm. You might even feel there's joy or love or peace present. A few more breaths together in this meditation practice. And I bow to my own inner self, knowing and being, and to you and yours. Perhaps as you go now, transition to your day, your week before we meet again next week, you can, if you can take your prayer, your intent, and make it a choice, a simple choice between, which is so easy for our mind, again, to go to that comparison function. And so we can use that to choose for maybe focus to get that task done as opposed to being drawn off to something different. Maybe to take a breath before we react the same way to in a relationship that we would like to change. Maybe when we feel we're in fear, to come back to a feel of love or peace. And it is helpful to have some way of when you're have that kind of abstract, love or peace could feel abstract, but to have something or many things that signify to you where is the experience in your body. This is, I'm kind of going off on a tangent in these last couple minutes, not a tangent, but the practice that I do include here so often of checking in with what we're feeling, sensing, thinking, all the functions that we have, and what words we give to that, and how it feels in our body, because then we have more hooks to come back to a certain um, thing, experience that we may want. So you may know that you love movement. I was thinking this yesterday that I love riding my bicycle. I like walking. I haven't skied in a long time, but I like skiing, roller skating. So that feel in the body and to linger on that. So what the feel is, so when I say to give an illustration, mine is for peace or love. This is part of why we practice, because when I'm sitting quietly, and especially together, it's so much more powerful. Even though I'm alone here in this tiny house, but I'm with you. I know you're there. I know many, many other people are practicing with me in this way. Um, I can feel the qualities of love and peace for me, and you can check for yourself, but they are a calmness and ease. There's a little, I'd say more contentment than joy, more of a just a, just an exhale. There can be arm, hand gestures to help you, help you embody the quality that you may want to feel more of and gravitate toward. And finally, I'll say, I think this, I feel this, I'm not sure I trust it 100%, and therefore I still practice, is that that peace and love is always here. I think it's what we are. I think that's what our presence is. And the Course in Miracles and other teachers like Byron Katie say we forget about that or we get confused. So those are the guideposts. Thanks so much for joining me. Ciao, ciao. See you next time at the usual time.